Yo, the big Nintendo game for the spring and summer is Mario Strikers Battle League. During the Nintendo 64, GameCube, and maybe to a lesser extent the Wii eras, Nintendo sports titles were a huge deal and something we all look forward to. With all that being said, in this video we're going to be taking a very quick look at Mario Strikers Battle League, as I have had over a week with the game, and I will be pointing out some of the annoyance that I've experienced, which to me is definitely a shame, as there is a strong game here that, if the planned DLC is anything to go by, could become something pretty awesome. And at the end of the video I will let you know whether the game is worth buying or not, so make sure you keep it locked. First up, I will say that the character roster is way too small. Now, okay, there is going to be DLC which is planned, and I'm assuming that this roster is definitely going to be greatly padded out. However, at launch, Mario Strikers Battle League only has 10 characters to choose from. That is around half of what the last game on the Nintendo Wii offered, and granted, the characters are most of the Nintendo's big hitters, but 10 characters is way too few. You end up playing the same teams over and over again. Even with how good the characters look, it can really become very repetitive. The second grab, I will say that this game is probably not considered, in my humble opinion, a pick up and play game. Now, this might be a bit of a harsh to class this as a negative, as Mario Strikers Battle League actually plays a very sophisticated game of arcade soccer. However, it lacks that pick up and play aspect that most other Mario sports titles have had, including past Mario Striker games. When you start a game, you play through a series of tutorials that explain the game mechanics, but I guess for someone who pops over and maybe not really a hardcore gamer, but wants to play the game with the family or their friends, they probably may have a hard time getting into this game, if I'm going to be brutally honest. My third gripe is the fact that there is not enough content. Now, as far as a single player goes, Mario Strikers Battle League does not have enough content. You can play in these cups that will see you trying to win trophies, but you can breeze through these in no time at all. With no meaningful unlockables either, it makes this mode feel very, very boring. Some kind of story mode really should have been added to make things more interesting for people who just want to play this game offline. More content will probably be added to the game, but at launch, the game mode selection, in my humble opinion, is flat out poor. Number 4, I will say that you cannot take a full squad online with one Nintendo Switch console. Now, this may be down to limitation of the Nintendo Switch, to be fair, but you can have a full team of 4 humans plus an AI goalkeeper going against each other online, and it is great. However, you cannot have 4 people on one Switch playing online, which to me is a real shame. You can play 8-player multiplayer matches on one Switch, and that is definitely awesome, and I do feel it works really well. However, if they allow a group of 4 to be on the same Switch trying to make their way up the online leaderboards, it would have definitely been a ton of fun. Now, my last gripe is the fact that this game is very different to the original Wii version. Now, maybe this gripe could have probably come under the not enough content point that I made earlier, but I kind of thought it needed its own space. Now, as someone who absolutely loved the Wii version of Mario Strikers over 15 years ago, I thought that this edition would have definitely built upon what that original version brought to the table and bring even more to the table in terms of the gameplay experience. However, unfortunately, I just feel that there is so much missing to the actual gameplay experience that makes it not as enjoyable as this game could have definitely have been. I personally enjoyed the soundtrack on the previous games. In this one, I will say that the soundtrack doesn't really do much for me. There is no unique soundtrack and music for characters or pitches, whereas in the past game, the music felt more themed for the levels that you played on, whereas now I would be lying if I was to say that I recall a typical catchy Mario or Nintendo theme song in this particular game. Another thing that I found different to previous versions of the Mario Striker game is the pitch environment doesn't change like the old games did. From what I've experienced, there is no pitch variety or hazards. And whilst there are 5 preset stadiums, all pitches just look different, but they don't play different, which makes selecting a pitch pretty pointless unless you just want a color change. I personally think it would have been nice to have seen some modifiers in there to mix up the gameplay with some fun elements like supercharged balls and just other features that would have definitely maybe mixed up the gameplay in each specific scenarios. I also think in comparison to some of the previous Mario Strikers games that one of the other features that I find pretty annoying is the goalkeepers. They seem to make some blinding saves on shots that you think are simply impossible to save, whereas some of the shots that you think are very easy to save end up slipping into the back of the net, which makes the overall gameplay in certain instances feel cheap at times. I could literally go on listing some of the various issues that I have between this version and the previous versions, but I will leave it there at this point. But I will say definitely it has been a little bit disappointing when you do compare what was in the past to what is today, because you do feel like what is presented today should definitely be a bigger improvement on what we've played previously. Anyway, peeps, that's the 5 gripes that I've got for Mario Strikers Battle Leagues, and I guess the $1,000,000 question, is this game worth buying? Well, I will say if you do plan to play this game online and have friends who are willing to play with you, then definitely it's a real fun game that you probably will like to sink your teeth into. I think at the current asking price, it might be a little bit too steep. I can't see how low it will get in the coming weeks, but I definitely do think it's one of those ones that you've got to weigh up whether you can really justify spending that much money on a game that doesn't really have enough content to definitely keep you playing for months upon end. But at the same time, it definitely is still fun. To me, without question, it is a really fun multiplayer offering from Nintendo, and definitely one up there over the last few years that I think is an absolute blast to play with friends. However, on the other side of the fence, if you are not an online gamer, if you don't have the all-important Nintendo online membership, and maybe your friends don't visit you that frequently, and this might be a game that you're probably looking to play by yourself, I will say that there definitely isn't really enough content in this overall game to keep you interested for more than a couple of weeks at most. More content is coming via DLC, but what you have right here, right now, is severely lacking when it comes to the single player content. Without sounding too harsh, and no pun intended, I do feel like they have dropped a ball with this specific game. Definitely a game that I felt had so much potential, and I will be honest to say that in my humble opinion, it didn't reach the heights and my expectations, but definitely it's not the worst game that I've seen some people class this game as. It's not as terrible as a lot of people are making out, but I definitely do think if you are looking to spend around £45 for this game, it might be asking a little bit too much in that specific department. That's all we've got time for in this critique/review video that we had for Mario Strikers Battle Leagues. Do let me know your thoughts in the comments below on the gripes that I've mentioned. Do you relate to some of the points that I've raised? Do you disagree with some of them? And also do let me know any specific gripes that you have surrounding this game that I failed to mention in this video. And definitely it will potentially help out other gamers who may be sitting on the fence as to whether they should buy this game or not. As always, if you did enjoy this very quick or very long urban gameplay video, be sure to smash the like button. Do hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so before. And until next video, we definitely say peace out, peeps.
Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button for more cool urban gameplay videos.